if you think about your kind of longevity in the business and fans kind of keeping you front of mind, I mean, I'm sure a really big part of that. I'm gonna slip back to an anniversary now. So it has been, as of the time this episode comes out, 25 years since Have a Nice Day made its
Yeah,
first appearance and was published. And I'm sure that book has had a really big impact in terms of your trajectory post wrestling and all of the books and everything else you've been able to do since. I mean, when you were writing that on yellow legal pads back in 1999, what were your ambitions for it at the time? Because no one had really put out a wrestling
yeah.
memoir.
Well, my back was up against the wall because the professional writer had written about half of the book, and I just thought it was dull. I just thought it was dull,
Mm.
and so I was trying to not just spice it up. I don't mean spice it by making outlandish claims, but I mean like just make it interesting. And when after about the dozenth time, I was like, what if we put it like this? How about if we put it this way? I was like, I think I can write this book. I might not be able to write any other book, but I can write this book. So I actually started the book where he had left with the halfway
Okay.
point. And I thought, okay, I'm not so crazy as to think we're just going to disregard what this guy did with the first half of the book. But then after I wrote the first chapter, it became clear to me, first chapter, second half of the book,
Mm.
became clear to me that I was going to go back and do the whole thing. It's just interesting that I started with the second half. And so by the time I finished the second half, I had over 100,000 words, and the book was only supposed to be 60,000 total. And that's why if anyone goes to not the introduction, but the actual front page, it begins with the words, I turned 18 in the summer of 1983. So it's just, yeah, we're going to start it when I'm 18 years old. We're not going to go back in time, in time to when I was a baby and all that stuff. And that was only because I had greatly underestimated how much I had written.
Yeah, I mean, it still stands tall as one of the greatest. Uh, I would say personally, not just memoirs I've ever read, but not just wrestling memoirs, but memoirs generally. It's a fantastic book, and I think it's so laced with humor, but also insight and this kind of peeling behind the curtain in a way that we hadn't ever really seen before. I know that that's quite commonplace now, seeing what goes on behind the scenes,
Yeah,
but back then
yeah.
it was very unusual. I think that's why it struck such a chord.
Well, there had been a couple of, I don't think that's the only reason, because
Mm.
now you have books that whose sole purpose is to pull back the curtain.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it was told in an enjoyable way. And people found me to be a good narrator, good guy to get behind. So I wasn't just like giving away secrets for the point of giving away secrets. My idea was people are going to respect this wrestling more when they finish because of what it is instead of disrespecting it for what it isn't.
Mm.
And so I think when the long form stories like the Hell in a Cell show, where I really tried to make people feel what I was feeling when that was happening. And I think sometimes almost all the time when a ghostwriter does that, they can't
Mm.
make the audience feel that because they don't know. And by the time they're ready, if they were ready to try to make that happen on paper, they probably haven't talked with their subject in months,
Mm.
if that makes sense. And I'm not trying, that's the way the celebrity memoir is usually done.
Mhm.
But it was almost exclusively done that way until my book came out, which opened the door for at least another 10 wrestlers, I'd say, to write their own book. And I don't know if that's gone over to other sports where other athletes are writing their own books or not, but I think it might just be a wrestling thing.
Yeah, and no matter how good the ghostwriter is, unless you are throwing off a 16-foot cell, it's only so much you can get into your shoes,
Yeah,
really, in that
yeah.
scenario.